Hey guys, my name is Ashley and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a travel-based YouTube channel, but you probably would not guess that based on the lack of travel videos I had in 2020. But like most of you, I was just under lockdown in New York City and I wanted to stay put. I did get away once where I went upstate New York and over to New Hampshire in September. I did a little RV trip and that was the extent of my travels over the year. But looking ahead to 2021, it still looks the same as 2020 where we're still under some sort of lockdown, but I want to start planning a trip. And I've kind of planned a couple of trips already that have fallen through completely, but I had a lot of fun actually planning those trips, even though they didn't come to life. And I was reflecting on some of the videos that I made this past year, one of them being how to plan a road trip using Google My Maps, and the other was renting an RV for beginners. Those were travel planning videos, and they got a lot of positive feedback from you guys, and a lot of great questions too. One question that I know has kept coming up over and over again was how I research for a vacation. And for me, that's always been second nature and something that I like dork out over. But I realize for a lot of people, that is not second nature. And that's something that they want to learn how to do or how to do better. So it kind of inspired me while I'm still not traveling very much to maybe create a mini series here on YouTube about how I actually plan for a vacation. And I'm going to kind of break it into chunks. So the first video, aside from the two that I just mentioned, the first video is going to be all about research, and that's this video. My next video is going to be about budgeting, and the last video is going to be about booking. And I say last video, but I'm totally open if you guys have any suggestions for further videos. Just let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to do it because I'm not going anywhere, so let me know. Also, that's this community. I want to be able to have these conversations about planning for a vacation. And I have to admit, vacation planning is something that excites me so much that I think I actually have more fun planning for the vacation than going on the vacation. And I know that's a weird statement, but there's some sort of loss for me when that day comes that I'm flying out to the destination, because all of those months of anticipation and planning and learning and research, that's done. And now it's time to just enjoy the vacation. And yes, I totally enjoy it in the moment, but I've had so much fun the months prior planning that it's just a little bit of a loss. But that is why I'm making these videos, because they're so much fun, or it's so much fun to plan, and I want to help you guys out. So today, let's do some research. I am eventually at the end of this video going to go into how I'm researching Montana, which is next on my list. I'm planning it for September of 2021. So we're still months away from that, but I will actually go through the motions on how I'm researching that particular trip. But in the meantime, stick around and let's get started with picking your destination. The research phase for me always begins with a little bit of brainstorming. And that means just setting the budget aside, let's not think about numbers yet, and dreaming big. Do you have a bucket list of destinations that you've been dying to go to and you haven't made it happen yet? Maybe this is the moment for that. But maybe on the flip side, you don't really have a roster of destinations you've been dreaming about and you're really just overwhelmed by all that's out there that you can see. And how do you create a list from that? So I get a lot of inspiration from my family and friends when I hear stories about places that they've traveled to. I'll kind of take note. Also, if I see something on TV that's interesting, or maybe something's on my Facebook feed. I used to go to the library back in the day and search the travel section. I don't do that anymore, but the equivalent now would be going to Instagram. At least this is what I do. I go to Instagram and I'll do #travel and see what comes up and just start scrolling. I'll also follow accounts like National Geographic and Lonely Planet. They post pictures and images from or videos from all around the world. So it's a matter of just taking note of your daily life and seeing what catches your interest and your intrigue and making that note so moments like this you can pluck it out and be like, okay, I think maybe we should consider going there. Something that's been really fun for Keith and I is we actually have scratch-off maps, 2 scratch-off maps. One is just the United States and one is the entire globe. And what we have established as our rules is we scratch off only the destinations that we have been to together. So it's really cool to see and visualize where we've been and where we haven't been, And it makes it fun to pick our next location because we try not to repeat destinations, at least for right now, that's our goal. So we saw in September that we have traveled most of the Northeast except for New Hampshire, and that's how we landed on New Hampshire for our camping trip. So it's been really awesome. In fact, I'm gonna show you those maps because they're really cool. All right, so we have our world map. As you can see, we have a couple of places scratched off. We haven't really traveled the globe a lot together yet. Hopefully to come in the future. But we have more of the United States scratched off. And you can see what I was talking about with the Northeast destinations. Everything is conquered in the Northeast, but look at all the states we still have to cover, which is why it's very fun for us to pick a trip right now because we can pick anything that's brown because we have not been there yet. So a world of opportunity. At this point, you probably have a top 5 or a top 10 list, and it's really important to start paring that down to the one destination that you're actually going to go ahead and book. And I would encourage you to think about who you're traveling with. If you're traveling solo, this is completely on you and you get to decide 100% where you're going, and that's awesome. But if you're traveling as a couple or a family or you're going with friends, you want to take all of their opinions into consideration, which can be overwhelming, especially dependent on how many people you're traveling with. But you want to get everyone involved and get everyone excited for the vacation planning and make sure just everyone's like up to it and wants to go there. So have that conversation and make it fun in whatever way you can. For Keith and I traveling as a couple, we have actually won destinations on coin tosses, and I'm not lying. That's how I won Iceland. He had Ireland, I had Iceland. We flipped a coin. We got those by narrowing down our own bucket lists. So we each had our top one, we flipped a coin, and I ended up winning. So that was really fun and exciting, and that's how we ended up going. Other things to consider are when you're going to be able to travel. So let's say you're in a family and you've got young kids in school still, you're only going to be able to travel during those times that the kids have off from school, which are notoriously very crowded, busy times to be traveling and expensive times. But you want to think about the destinations that you have lined up and whether they're conducive to traveling during those times that you have off, because they might not be. If you want to go to Disney World and you only have February break, you know that's going to be busy, crowded, and expensive. So you might back out of that Disney trip and go somewhere else. Hi, Editing Ashley here. I realized I forgot to make a point and I wanted to jump in and just include it. But in addition to determining when you will be able to travel over the course of the year, you need to determine how long of a time you will have to travel. Meaning, do you only have 2 days over a weekend, or do you have 7 to 10 days to travel somewhere a little further? This is important because if you are from New York and you have Australia on your list, but you only have 4 days of a vacation, you could probably nix that for this particular trip because there's just not enough time. So that's one strategy for helping narrow down your list. All right, back to the video. Also, think about weather in that destination or those destinations and see what's best for the time that you can travel. Think about the seasonality of where you're going. So for instance, you'll see in a little bit, I'm planning a trip to Montana and I would love to go to Glacier National Park, but I've learned that come September, October, parts of that park start to close down because of the snow coming in. So I might not want to travel during certain times of the year so I can really get the full experience at another time of the year. And also think about if you're going to more exotic locations, if you need a vaccine besides coronavirus, if you need a vaccine to get there, or a visa, if there's any travel warnings in place from the government. Those are all things to look into. But perhaps most importantly, before you decide on that destination, as you're narrowing down this list, I would encourage you to think about the type of vacation experience you want. Do you want a relaxing vacation or maybe an adventure vacation? Or do you want kind of an educational vacation? Or maybe a mix of a couple of those? That's completely up to you, and that they're all great options, but that is something you should think about with your family or whoever you're traveling with. You should all decide, okay, this is the type of trip we want. Keith and I have found that I really like adventure and he likes relaxation. I actually think we both like a bit of each. And because we've had these conversations, we have decided for most of our trips to kind of give a balance of both of those. So I know when we went to Hawaii, we had every other day was a really fun adventure, and then every other day was like a relaxing spa day. So that will inform how we proceed with the planning and booking phases.
I apologize if you hear any crashing outside my window. A water main just broke, of course, while I'm filming. So if you hear any crashing, beeping, or anything else, that is what's going on. But we should move on to the next phase of vacation planning. At this point, you should know the destination that you want to go to. And it's taken a while to get to this point, but now that you know the place, it's time to research that particular destination a little bit further. So you've researched to get to that destination. Now you want to know a little bit more about it and what you're going to be doing when you're there. So that's this phase, and we're going to jump onto Zoom so I can show you what's going on. So over on Zoom, I'm going to do a quick screen share, and while I'm getting that set up, I just want to let you know that we are still ignoring the budget aspect of things. The budget comes in the next video, and we're ignoring it for now, as that is how I normally vacation plan. I pick the destination and then I figure out the budget to make it happen. Not everyone thinks that way, but that is how I operate, so I'll show you how I do that in the next video. All right, so screen sharing, here we go. Cool, so we've got Google open. Google is our tool for everything. I get information for my vacations from everywhere, but it really starts with a good old-fashioned Google search. But actually before that, I'm gonna open Google My Maps. And if you haven't seen my video on that already, I will put the link in the top here. Or in the description of the video, however you access it. But this is a cool program for creating road trip maps, but also just for creating maps for any vacation. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a road trip like you see here. It can be just pinning locations that you're interested in, which is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to create a new map, and I'm going to name it Montana because that is where I've chosen to go. I'm going to create a couple of layers, maybe interesting things, and accommodations. So I'm just clicking add a layer, accommodations. And we'll just keep it at that for now. Again, you can refer to my other video for a little more in-depth look at this program. But I'm gonna leave this open as its own tab, and I'm gonna keep coming back to it. And the idea is I'm going to, as I'm learning and reading about Montana, things that are intriguing to me or things that I really want to do, I'm gonna drop a pin on the map for that. So it's just like a place to store all of those ideas and hopes for the vacation. So I'm gonna open another tab, and just here we are at Google. And where I start for any destination is just typing in the name of that destination and tourism. You can see I've already looked for that this year. Montana tourism, and pretty much everywhere you go they're going to have a tourism board. So this looks pretty official. Oh, there we go. So same website, but Montana's official tourism. There we go. The tourism sites are great because they really show you all the hot spots and the must-sees of any vacation. They're not so great for finding those little cool, quirky spots, and that takes a little more planning and research, but this is a great place to start because touristy things are touristy for a reason, and I like to do them just to say that I've done them, but of course I like to find other things as well. So I'm on the Montana tourism website. I'm going to scroll down and just kind of see what they've got going on. I see that they have national parks. They have a section for trip ideas. That's awesome. Backgrounds for video conferencing. That's really cool. I have to come back to that. Down here, they have an Instagram feed, which is great because I was actually going to suggest that to you. I mentioned it earlier that I go on Instagram for some inspiration. It seems that anybody that has tagged Montana will end up on this page. That's my guess. But wow, these images are beautiful. And let's say one of these really caught my eye, and I love photography, so maybe I want to see this place and see if I can capture the Milky Way. So let's read the description here. Okay. And it's not too far from Miles City, but Terry Badlands. Never heard of it, but let me copy and paste that. I'm going to put that on my map just to have it marked. Montana. And as I went over in my Google My Maps video, this is not actually added to the map. You have to hit add to map, and then it drops the pin. And this actually dropped into the accommodations layer. If I just drag it, I can bring it into interesting things. So there we go. So okay, one pin dropped. I'm not gonna spend too much time in here. I'm gonna bounce back over to the tourism board and maybe back out of this. Let's see what else we've got going on. That looks really cool. I don't know what that is, but let's see if I can, I don't know if that will come up in a Google search, but Pole Bridge. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. If I back out of this a little bit. Okay. Oh, okay, so one thing is on one side of the state and the other thing is on the other side. But you can start to see that what I'm doing is I'm creating a collection of things that are interesting to me. And this kind of informs where I might want to stay or how I want to lay out the trip. So this is just the initial planning phase where I'm researching, finding things that interest me and dropping them on the map. This doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to do them, but I at least have them as a reminder of things that interested me. So continuing, I'm going to scroll back up because I know that I am definitely interested in Glacier National Park, and I'm curious to know if they have that on here. Oh, explore. I just don't know what other national parks there are. There's a ton of national parks. What? Cool. And this is the fun of researching. I had no idea. Yellowstone. Oh, okay. Yeah, I did know Yellowstone kind of dipped into this this state, so that's cool. I didn't realize where exactly it was, though. That's awesome. So, okay, Glacier's up here, Yellowstone's down here. I mean, that's cool. If I had enough time, I would probably try and do both. Let's see if I hit Glacier National Park, if that will take me to their site. Okay, I'm still on the Montana Tourism Board, but I have a ton of information. Top 10 hikes in Glacier National Park, going to the Sun Road. Okay. And they also have a map down here. Oh, which is good. It's got different markings. So let's say, let's explore within Glacier. Let's say Big Sky Water Park was somewhere I wanted to go. I just put that in here. Drop that down. Sorry, my computer's a little glitchy. Okay. So I guess, oh yeah, I have 3 things on my map. One is way over here. 2 of them are over here. Okay, and maybe, well, I'm not going to spend too much time on the tourism website, but you get the gist that start on the tourism website and see what are the must-see spots that they recommend, because again, they're touristy for a reason, so you probably want to see those. Otherwise, you never want to return from a vacation feeling like you missed out on something. It could be the only time you get to go there. That's how I live my life anyway. It could be the one time that I'm there, and I want to make the most of it while I'm there. So if that means trying to see as many touristy locations as I can, great. But yes, I want to leave a ton of time for flexibility, number one, that's very important, but also exploring those off the beaten path places. So I can continue my search on the tourism board, but I'm probably going to jump off now and look at some other things. One thing that I enjoy doing is asking my friends what they think of Montana and if they have any suggestions. So one thing that I personally do is I'll go onto Facebook while I'm planning a trip. Let's go over here, and I'll just say like, hey, planning a Montana trip. Okay, have you guys been to Montana? Looking for some travel tips. Glacier National Park is on my mind. And you can see I got 30 comments, so that's awesome. My friends and family really came through. They all had various recommendations, which is great. Oh, this is one place that a couple of people recommended, so I'm just gonna copy and paste that. And again, I don't really know much about it right now, so I'm just dropping it on my map because somebody recommended it. It must be good. And eventually I'll go through this map and really figure out where are the spots that are must-see for me personally, because maybe this was great to one person, but like it really doesn't interest me. I'm just putting it here as a reminder. And let's see, anything else? Flathead Lake, okay. So that was the other one. Okay, I dropped the pin. Great. I'm going to back out of that. Okay, I backed a little too far out. But you can see that everything that I've been pinning so far is in the top western quadrant of Montana. So that kind of informs me that maybe that's where I want to stay, somewhere in that area. I want to book an accommodation somewhere over there. Now, I knew because of the previous phase of research that I want a half and half trip. I want half relaxing, half like hiking adventure. So for relaxing, in my mind, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to have a cabin somewhere in Montana? Don't know if that's a thing, but I can at least look into it because that would be cool. Also, on that Montana tourism website, I just saw that they had cabins. There was a picture of a cabin, so I'm gonna look for that. And I'm gonna try and look in this area. So maybe just by looking at the map, I can kind of, well, I do one of two ways. I either pick like, okay, Flathead Lake cabins because this is a huge lake and looks like there's a lot going on, or I could maybe type in into Google Glacier National Park cabins, or cabins, let's do this, cabins near. Okay, and you can always rely on VRBO and Airbnb. I like to type into Google before going to those specific websites, which I've used. They're great. But I like to type into Google because maybe you'll find some private accommodations that are not necessarily listed on Airbnb. But anyway, that's just one thing that I search. But anyway, I'm familiar with Airbnb. Let's go on that site. Glacier National Park. I'll put in, these dates are not set, but I'll put in, maybe I'm going to try and go after Labor Day, which I'm assuming is either the 6th or the 13th. So let's put in the 15th to the 18th. 2 people, search. So I searched Glacier National Park, which means these are all in or nearby the park, which is good because that will be close to everything else that I have on my map so far that I've expressed interest in. Oh my God, this is gorgeous. At Spotted Bear Retreat. Okay, let's say this was one that I wanted. The only thing that you can't do right now is you can't find the exact address of this place because you haven't booked it. Once you book it, you'll get the address and all that information. But right now we get a kind of generic, this is the city that it's in. So Martin City, Montana. I'll just look on a map here. And let me zoom out. I'm not going to pin it yet. I'm just going to zoom out. Okay, I mean, it's in the realm of things that I am hoping to do, so that might not be a bad spot. I could put that down, add to map. Okay, so I just hit add to map and it dropped in the interesting things. I'm gonna move that down to accommodations. And maybe I can write a note saying Airbnb cute cabin. This is just a note to myself. And at the same time on Airbnb, I can favorite this, I could save it. So I don't necessarily need to book it now, but I'm just starting to collect options of things that or places I can stay while I'm there. So you can see that this phase of research it can be very time consuming. I love it. It's so much fun for me to read, travel vlogs and delve into the information that's on the internet about the place. I spend a lot of time, and usually it's over the course of a couple of days of just like in my spare time going through and figuring out interesting things to do and see. So it takes a while, and you can fully populate a map with a ton of information. I'm not going to do that right now because that would make for a very long video, but just know that this is a great way to get started. As I explained in my other video, you can change the view of this map. So if it looks too cluttered, you can change it to a view that's a little more friendly to your eyes. But as you start to populate, I like this dark view. you can then start making some decisions of what you might be interested in booking. And we will get to that. But basically, the goal from the research phase is to create a list. So you've decided on your destination, you want to create a list of everything that you want to do. So activities, restaurants maybe, and accommodations. Those are my top 3 that I usually go for. Now, these are just wish list things. They're not necessary, but you want to create that list, because the next phase when we go into budgeting is figuring out what it is exactly you need to book and how much it costs. Some of these things that you want to do might need to be booked in advance, so we're going to learn about that in the next phase. But right now, you're just having fun and figuring out what excites you and what you would really want to do when you're on this vacation. I should point out that if you go to Google and you just type in Montana travel blog, you'll come across some like random websites, but these are travel bloggers, so they spend their time researching, actually traveling there, getting you the information, and they give you a recount of their specific trip. Obviously, everybody is different, but you can take little bits and pieces from all these people. So I always enjoy kind of perusing these random blogs. And similarly, if you go to YouTube, you can do the same thing. You could type in Montana tourism or Montana travel, and you can see videos that have come up from there and start gathering elements of things that you might want to do from those videos. There's so many different places to get this information, but I stress this now because for me, I may have said it earlier, I don't want to go to a place, come home, and realize I missed all of this stuff. So I know you can't accomplish everything on one trip, but I do try to do my best to make sure I see those must-see spots. And that comes from researching ahead of time and knowing what you need to book and so on and so forth. And again, leave a ton of space for flexibility too. We will talk about that more when we're doing the booking stuff, but for now, just create that list of things that you want to do, and we will talk about how budget kicks in next week in our budget video.